This is the Anthropology Podcast, the podcast where we optimize the bodies, brains, and lifestyles of entrepreneurs, go-getters, and world-changing innovators.
Instagram has done us all a disservice. Instagram makes it seem like being a CEO or your own boss is the absolute best, most perfect pink and gold vocation you could possibly pick in life. There are fabulous planners, amazing mugs, incredible t-shirts, all of the things that make it look like it is just the most amazing lifestyle to be a CEO. You know, one of the things that I'm so fortunate to do is to hang out with entrepreneurs to help them optimize not only their businesses, but their health as well. And there's a common feature to the entrepreneurs who come through my door. They are passionate about the work that they are doing. They are excited about what it is that they are able to put into the world. And they are deeply disappointed that the day-to-day is not necessarily what you see on the gram. Today on the Anthropology Podcast, I am going solo because what I want to do is I want to take you through the top 10 lessons I have learned about what it actually means to be a mindful CEO. There is a truth to running a business, and the truth is it's absolutely incredible if you walk into it with your eyes wide open. Without understanding the core tenets of being a successful CEO and the responsibility that's going to come along with it, you are disappointed, you are burnt out, and ultimately your relationship and your health is what suffers. That does not have to be the truth of entrepreneurship. That doesn't have to be the truth of what it means to be a boss babe. But the reality is that when we don't walk into this profession and into this opportunity with our eyes wide open, with our mindset ready to be challenged, with the resources available at a moment's notice for us to be able to take our lives and the lives of our family to a next level, it leads to a path of emotional and physical destruction. So what I want to do today is I want to break it down, the top 10 things you need to know to be a mindful CEO. Here we go. Here's the truth. Welcome to the Anthropology Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Walker. As a naturopathic doctor and anthropologist, I optimize the health and performance of badass women looking to change the world as entrepreneurs and go-getters. You know, people exactly like you. Your business, body, balance, and inner badass. These are the themes we are exploring. So today, if you caught the introduction, I am doing a solo episode. And what I am talking about is how to be a badass, but equally mindful CEO. I have just seen so many people, including myself, led astray by the glamour of what it means to be self-employed. And I think that there are certain tenets that really enable one to stand behind the title of CEO and not necessarily just wear the t-shirt. And when you work on these things, when you have systems in place to actually help you move forward in these 10 particular areas, your business and your health and your confidence can move to whole new levels. But when they catch you by surprise, what happens is you end up feeling like a failure. You end up thinking, oh my gosh, everyone has this figured out. I am absolutely not cut out for this. And very rarely do I meet people who are actually not cut out for the entrepreneurial journey that they so desperately desire. What I see are people who were never given the opportunity or never told what was actually coming at them. Just like you need to prepare for a marathon or having a new baby, when people actually tell you what you need to do in order to be successful, you know exactly what plans to put into place. You don't feel disappointed when you fall off your training schedule. You acknowledge it and you know what action to take to get back on it. I think the epidemic of not knowing what you don't know about entrepreneurship is really costing a lot of people incredible businesses and solutions in the marketplace. But more importantly to what I do on a day-to-day basis, I think it's actually costing them their health. And so what I've done is I pulled together my top 10 list of the top 10 things that I think every mindful CEO needs to know in order to successfully put their product and their solution and themselves out there into the world. So not necessarily in an order of importance because they are all equally important. And at different times of your life and in your career, the level of importance for a variety of these different things are going to bubble to the surface. So all of equal importance, but all requiring a moment of reflection. Here is my top 10 list. The first, and I will actually argue this is the most important, but then after this, they're all equal. The first is a connection to purpose. I talk about this with my patients, and I talk about this equally when I am working with clinician entrepreneurs. And the differentiation between people who get well in my practice and the people who get stuck being sick is a distinct connection to their sense of purpose. And by purpose, I don't just mean, oh, I got to get the kids out the door and I have to get them to school, or I have an accounting report that's due at the end of the day, or I have to pay my taxes. Those aren't necessarily purposes. Those are tasks and responsibilities that you have to carry out. Purpose is different. Purpose is visceral. It lives inside you. It is the confluence of what you're really good at, what you can put out into the world, and what is equated to a bigger contribution than something just for yourself. Purpose almost always connects you to a bigger picture. And it's the lack of purpose and the lack of acknowledgement of needing to have purpose in your life that often leaves people astray. If money is accidentally perceived by you as being your purpose, it pulls you in an entirely different direction. When purpose is your North Star, it can make or break where you go. But I ask all of my patients within the first 2 appointments, what is your purpose? And I don't mean your purpose for why you walked in here today, but your purpose in life. And their ability to stop and reflect on that, like I mentioned earlier, is the biggest distinction between when people are stuck and when they're able to move forward. Equally compelling when people move through the phases of their life, because your purpose doesn't necessarily always remain the same. So when your kids are really young and you're like, I'm really trying to fuel their education and lay the foundation, and I'm establishing the roadmap for where they're going to be able to go in their life, that absolutely can occupy a sense of purpose. But when it becomes the only sense of purpose that you have in your life, when those kids move on, it creates this crisis of confidence. Similarly, if you have a business and your whole purpose for that period of time or that season is to get that business out of the door, but it isn't attached to a bigger picture, it isn't attached to a larger acknowledgement of what your unique sets of skills are and your capacity to contribute, then once that business gets going, or in some cases, once that business gets sold, we see people slip into a state of debilitating depression. And so really taking the time to acknowledge how the skills that enabled you to lay that roadmap for your children, or the skills that enabled you to build that successful business, are actually applicable in a broader sense. Just the acknowledgement that those skills may be transferable is the first step to starting to be able to understand your capacity for contribution and your larger connection to purpose. And it is a big deal. Number 2, rejection. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the energetics of Gary Vaynerchuk, but I heard him speak recently and he was talking about the idea of rejection, and I really thought it hit home because it just cut to the point. And someone said, well, how do you handle rejection? And he said, first of all, when it comes to rejection, he's like, I just move through it, because who am I to think that I should be immune to rejection by the real world? If I'm going to put something out there, it's anyone's prerogative to be able to comment on it. And most people have an undercurrent of anger or frustration in the world. So if they see something they don't like, they see it as their right to comment. So the second you make a decision to put something out into the world, you are going to be vulnerable to rejection. And it isn't necessarily something you should work to avoid, because it is absolutely inevitable as a result of living a life of contribution. And what I've realized about rejection is that ultimately, at the end of the day, the only thing that is hurt is, in fact, my ego. Nothing that actually matters gets hurt by that sense of rejection. And that rejection is actually just an opportunity to pivot if enough people reject you. Or manage your copy. Manage how you put it out into the world. Build up your armor. Sometimes having scars in life are some of the greatest assets that we have, because scars are usually indicative of experience. Rejection is something you are going to have to face. And Brene Brown spoke about it in such a great and compelling way in her new Netflix special, where she talks about being in the ring. And if you're going to be in the ring, one of the advantages of being in there is when you get knocked down, you're going to see all the other people who were also knocked down in the ring. And so you smile at one another with this mutual acknowledgement that you all are trying to do something worthwhile. It's the people in the stands who avoid the eye contact. It's the people in the stands who do everything they can to avoid rejection, who they themselves don't necessarily get to have that blissful opportunity of contribution. And so if rejection is something you don't feel comfortable with, or if rejection is something you're like, well, how do you manage rejection? I actually just encourage you next time to just completely lean into it. And then ask yourself, how and in what way does this actually really matter? And if you're finding that rejection is the thing that's holding you back, if it's debilitating, if it is like the cone in the middle of your roadmap and it derails the direction you know you should be going, that is where I would outsource a coach to help you get past it, because the world needs what you have to do. And if rejection is the thing that is holding you back, I promise you, sister, you are going to hit a roadblock sooner rather than later. Rejection needs to be dealt with. You need a strategy to manage it, because you cannot live a life of contribution attempting to avoid it. It's going to take you so long to get to where you need to go. Number 3, priorities. People will often say you can look at someone's schedule and get a very keen and clear sense of what their priorities are in life. And I absolutely agree with that. Whether I'm talking to clinician entrepreneurs or regular entrepreneurs, I think one of the biggest things that people find is that they're just like, everything is coming at me all at once, and I don't know what to tackle first. And I often use this analogy in my own life where I say, I feel like I'm on a tennis court playing against a ball machine that is on hyperdrive, and there are just balls flying at me in every which direction. And so you get into a reactive mode. You don't necessarily get to be in proactive mode. Now, part of managing priorities means having a very distinct time system so that you can focus on different types of tasks for different blocks of time. But in order for that to work, it first requires that you are very clear on the core things that need to be executed upon. And if we could start today just by dividing them into 2 categories, there are the tasks that must be done, the follow-up tasks, the things that keep your business rolling. And then there are the project-based tasks. These are the things that advance your business. These are the things that enable your business to move forward. And it's those things that move your business forward that should be the priority throughout the course of the day, not 10 priorities, 1 priority. And every research piece around prioritization says you can't prioritize 10 things. You can absolutely prioritize 1. 2 fabulous resources on this matter are 2 books. One I've read, one I haven't, but I've heard so many people mention its amazingness that I'm going to share it with you. The first is called The One Thing. I read this book. I listened to it on Audible on double speed. I was really quick about how I could get through it because the message was really compelling and simple. But really what they did is they smothered you with an abundance of research that says you can only focus on one thing at a time. The second book is called Essentialism, and Essentialism is basically the same thing, that at the end of the day, if you want to move something forward, you need to strip all the unnecessary pieces from your life in order to make that one thing happen. Anyone who's doing big things in this world will tell you that focus has been the key to their rapid advancement. And that's one of the things I'm going to encourage you to look at in your world as the CEO of that world or of that business or of that family. What is the one priority right now that absolutely needs to be moved forward? Number 4, measurements of success. People seem to really care about how many followers they have on Instagram. But then if I asked you, why does that matter so much? If you're really honest, beyond the sense of accomplishment or the little hit to your ego that you might get, do you actually have an answer? One of the things that we get really caught up in the Instagram and Pinterest era of CEO aspiration is we get obsessed with these things called vanity metrics. Those are metrics that do not matter. They just make us feel good. That's the number of logos that you have on your website that say as seen on. That's the number of followers that you have on Instagram. None of these things really matter unless you understand how they matter and if they matter for your particular business. One of the key things that needs to be in place for you to be an effective and mindful CEO is a clear set of metrics. We call them on the podcast our KPIs, or key performance indicators, the things that you need to measure to know that your business is actually growing, to know what's happening with respect to revenue, to know where your leads are coming from. These are the types of metrics that you actually need to have a handle on as a CEO, and you need a system and you need time that you set aside in order to go in and collect those metrics on a regular basis. You need to know how to respond to them, but most importantly, it is your job as the leader of your company to identify the metrics and measurements that actually matter. The things that we measure, we're actually able to change. As a clinician, I am left treating in the dark if I don't have objective measurements that I am using in order to evaluate the success and progress of my patient's health. The same thing happens with respect to your business. If you don't know how much money you're making, how much money you are losing, how many new clients you have, how many leads actually convert into real clients, you don't have a pulse on your business. No one would practice medicine that way. You can't run a business that way either. Step one is really identifying the key things that you need to know. And then step two is putting a system in place where you actually record these measurements on a regular basis. Number 5, health. I told you there was no particular order here. I fundamentally believe that when people have their health, they can change the world. This is what underlies everything I do. It's why I became a practitioner and I work with patients in my practice. It is also why I work with practitioners to help them amplify their businesses, because if incredible clinicians have elegant, simple systems in order to run their companies, then they can reach more people. They can be more impactful with a system of medicine that genuinely changes people's lives. And the reason that I am so passionate about this is that I fundamentally believe that as the leader of a company or of an organization or of a household, if your health is not available to you at a moment's notice, then it's really difficult for you to reliably scale your contribution. Health and finances are two of the things we are never taught in school, and yet they are the two pieces that seem to be the biggest source of stress for us as adults. Get a handle on both. Your health is your secret weapon. And if you go into, and I do love this is where I love social media, and I'm a cherry picker. This is where I love social media and CEO conversations. When you go into actual business groups and you say, what's your secret weapon for being successful in your practice? You see people say this. They're like sleep, meditation, going out for a run. And the people who say that sincerely mean that. And usually the people who say it, those are the people who actually have it figured out. They've got the systems, they've got the metrics, they know what their priorities are in their business, but they also know what their priorities are in their life. And they recognize that without the health piece in place, they cannot drive their business forward. Number 6, an irresistible solution. Half the time I have patients coming into my office, half of them are really there because they want to fix their health. And then the other half come and they're like, I have this little health thing, but I actually had a really cool strategic question about my business, which is really one of my favorite questions to be able to work on. I love strategy related to business, but I'm amazed how often people will talk about what it is that they want to do, or they have this incredible idea, but it isn't an incredible idea for their audience. And this is the key thing. It's not the difference between a hobby and a business is that the solution and thing that you are working on is something that people actually want to purchase. And so if you are going to be the CEO of your company, it is not your job to project manage every project that you could possibly take on. It's your job to project manage the ones that will bear the greatest amount of fruit, the ones that will be most impactful for your target audience. And so one of the things that I would really encourage you to do as a mindful CEO is create a system around how you make a decision about the projects you are going to take on. What are the characteristics of an irresistible solution for your target market? And how can you replicate that decision-making process over and over again? Number 7, a predictable flow of customers. And a question every business owner should be able to answer, is where have your clients actually come from? How do they hear about you? You need a very distinct answer. And to return to number 4, you need to measure the success of each of the places that you are investing for clients to come. And if you aren't investing, if you're going, well, I'm hoping that some of the referrals that I have been able to establish are going to pan out for me, you need a broader strategy than that. One of the key things that I hear over and over again in working with clinician entrepreneurs is we're reliant on referrals, but when it comes to actually driving traffic, there's no distinct strategy in order for that to be able to happen. Your job in your business as a clinician entrepreneur is to literally change people's lives. You need to bring more people through the door because people aren't healthy. Their health is a fundamental feature of their success in this world. So creating a strategy where you have a predictable and consistent flow of patients is a fundamental requirement of a business, and it is absolutely your responsibility as a mindful CEO to have a system in place in order for that to happen. Number 8, operational systems. There's these things in business that we call a ceiling of complexity. A ceiling of complexity is really where a set of strategies have gotten you to a certain point, and then you hit a wall. The wall is either overwhelm, or you just don't have enough hours in your day, or you need to bring on new staff members, or you literally have more work than you can possibly handle with the pipeline that you have created. Operational systems within your business definitely buy you time before you hit those ceilings of complexity. But when you have an operational system in place, one that manages your time, one that manages your projects, and one that manages the consistency of your processes within your business, then what it means is you're going to appreciate and understand that a ceiling of complexity is on the horizon, and you're going to be able to look at your systems and understand what in them needs to shift in order to break through that ceiling of complexity and come out the other side. Running a business shouldn't be a series of peaks and valleys that just demarcate stressful event to stressful event or ceiling of complexity to ceiling of complexity. When you have really strong systems in place that manage your process, your projects, and your time, you should see that that horizon is coming up more quickly than you anticipated, and you should be able to put systems in place to be able to handle it. In short, you should be able to plan. It is your job as the CEO to have systems, and if you go, listen, I'm not one of those people that's very good at coming up with those, then you need to find someone who can help you do it. And most really great business coaches will have a system around the creation of systems, and you absolutely need to look for that in your business. Clinician entrepreneurs, regular entrepreneurs, when I see people coming into my office with complete and utter overwhelm, it is because their businesses are controlling them. It's because their operational systems are actually not well attuned. And it's the visionary entrepreneurs, the ones who come up with the ideas, the ones who are doing big things, who move really quickly. They are the ones who are most at risk. I know that because I am one of those people, and I rely on the operational implementers to be able to keep me on track. You cannot be everything to everyone. And it's one of the things you realize as your business grows is that you're definitely not going to be able to wear all the hats. So if you know you're the idea person, if you know that you are the visionary, that is the system of leadership that you bring to your business, you're the visionary CEO, then you absolutely need to find someone to help you create systems around that operational piece. It's going to keep you going. It's going to enable your ideas to actually get implemented, and it's going to keep you from hitting a series of ceilings of complexity within your business. Number 9, financial acumen. Now, bear with me here, because there's this tendency as soon as you talk about finances that people are like, I'm going to hit stop on this podcast and I'm going to see what Dave Asprey's up to today. I want you to resist that for just 1 minute, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, What we're really after here is to build a business that can help us to live a life where we're able to afford the things that we want to do, where we are able to afford to contribute to things in a way that really matters to us. There's something incredibly powerful about being able to donate to a charity or to an individual where you don't necessarily have to think twice about actually donating the amount that you would like to give. I remember last year that happened to me. There was a GoFundMe campaign and I was really wanting to help this person. And there was something equally sad. There was just something incredibly satisfying actually about being able to support them in a way that would have seemed unfathomable to me probably even a year earlier. And that's the thing, is that when you don't have that oxygen mask on yourself, you cannot contribute in a big way to other people. And even the most successful entrepreneurs come into my office, and finances are still one of the biggest sources of stress in their life. Stress kills us. It kills a business. It kills our relationships. So having a handle on the financial piece is critical for any entrepreneur. In fact, I would argue it's critical for anyone. And for me, when I talk about the mastery of financial acumen, I am really talking about two elements. I'm talking about the mindset that is required for effective financial management and financial growth. And I'm talking about the metrics. What do you actually need to know from those profit and loss statements and from those income statements in your accounting system that tell you whether your business is growing or shrinking? What are the three most critical metrics you can have a look at? You're going to need to know that when you're coming up with your system for item number 4, which was measurements of success. But you're also going to need to know that if you actually want to grow your business, if you're actually going to want to contribute to yourself and to your family in a way that you absolutely deserve. This is the thing about being a CEO. You're not the CEO of the local hobby shop. You are the CEO of your life and of your business. And it is a business. A business makes money. And so the management of the finances are absolutely critical. And finally, number 10, a life beyond work. You need to have things in your life that are more important and more fun than your job. It is an incredible privilege to get up every day and be able to work on something in the world that I am this deeply passionate about. But I would drop it in a moment's notice if my family needed me. And my North Star for what I create in my business and the model of execution in my business, and the reason that I have shifted models over time and I will shift those models again, is because ultimately what I am building is a life that is in alignment with my values. And part of that means being able to be there for my family, being able to be there for my friends, and being able to create experiences in my life that extend beyond work. And this is the difference between two types of goals. There are means goals. Means goals are those goals where we're like, I would like to have $200,000 in the bank. I would like to have a car. I would like to have a cottage. And end goals. End goals are, I would like to have an experience with my family where we get to do X, Y, and Z, where we're creating memories. End goals are things like, I would like to contribute to this element of my legacy. End goals are things like, I would like to be able to take time and invest money in learning a particular set of skills I would not otherwise be able to do. End goals are not about things. They're not about collection. They are about experiences, and they are about what it means to be human. Part of being a mindful CEO, part of earning the mug or the fancy planner means being able to create a distinction between the means goals and the ends goals. And ultimately, that is what is going to enable you to connect to that higher sense of purpose. I believe so much in this CEO system, how to become a mindful CEO, that we've created a little course around the whole thing. We have so far created this course specifically for clinicians. And part of that is I have a real privilege in my practice to be able to treat a lot of clinicians. And where the creation of this new course has come from has actually been watching so many of my colleagues suffer from adrenal fatigue and anxiety and IBS and autoimmune conditions, triggered mostly by the stress of trying to run their business. And running their business is usually trying trying to help other people. And so it's not more marketing tactics that people need. It's actually simplicity and elegance in what it is that they are delivering to the world. And so if you are a clinician and you have some curiosity around how we can create some simplicity in your business while actually making it grow, I'm going to encourage you to head on over to my clinicianbusinesslabs.com site. And if you go to clinicianbusinesslabs.com/CEO, it's linked up in the show notes. You're going to be able to access a little bit more information about our new program, the Clinician CEO, and hopefully shine a little bit of light on what it actually means, what it's going to take, and frankly, how simple it can be once we understand the roadmap to have a business that enables you to live the authentic, aligned life that you have always envisioned for yourself. I know this is a subject matter that is really going to hit home. I also know that this program is not necessarily for everyone, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this today. I posted some stuff on the gram, on my feed, which is Dr. Megan Walker. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this CEO system, what it means to you to be a mindful CEO. I wish you all the best day. Take some time, some moments to reflect, write down your ideas, and let's move you towards a place of simplicity and mindfulness as you lead your companies and your contribution in the world.
If you enjoyed our conversation and would like to hear more, head on over to Stitcher or iTunes and subscribe to the Anthropology Podcast. We would also really appreciate a quick review. When people have their health, they can change the world. Let us keep you healthy and you go change the world.